If there's one character who seems to stand above almost everyone in Mushoku Tensei, it's Orsted, the dragon god, one of the 7 great powers. A man so powerful that even legendary warriors avoid confronting him. But there's something even more impressive. Because there is someone who manipulates kings, heroes, emperors, and even the fate of entire nations. And yet he avoids Orsted at all costs. Hitogami. But before we continue, I want to know your opinion. If Orsted and Hitogami could fight without any restrictions, who do you think would win? Because most fans assume Hitogami fears Orsted simply because of his strength. But the truth is far more interesting. Hitogami doesn't just fear Orsted's power. He fears what Orsted represents. And to understand why, we need to go back thousands of years. Because this conflict began long before Rudeus was born. Long before the 7 great powers existed. And long before the main story even started. During the ancient war between the gods, Hitogami was responsible for one of the greatest tragedies in history. Through manipulation and deception, he played a major role in the downfall of multiple worlds. Eventually, he even brought about the death of the original dragon god. But before dying, the dragon god left something behind. His son, Orsted. And this is where things become interesting. Because Orsted didn't just inherit the dragon god's power. He inherited his mission. To defeat Hitogami. That alone would be a massive problem. But there's something even worse from Hitogami's perspective. Orsted isn't bound by the same limitations as everyone else. Because thanks to a technique created by the original dragon god, Orsted continuously relives time loops. Whenever he fails, whenever he dies, whenever his plans fall apart, he returns to the past, with all of his memories intact. Think about what that means. Hitogami normally wins because he understands the future. He observes possibilities, manipulates events, moves people around like pieces on a chessboard. But Orsted completely breaks that advantage. Because after countless loops, Orsted has also learned the future. In many ways, he understands the world better than Hitogami himself. And that transforms their conflict into something entirely different. It's not just a battle of strength. It's a battle of information. And that's exactly where Hitogami begins to lose his greatest advantage. But the situation gets even worse for him. Because there's a reason why Hitogami spends so much effort targeting Orsted's allies. And that reason is simple. Orsted is getting closer to victory. Across countless loops, he has accumulated knowledge about nearly every important event in the world. He knows which people matter, which alliances work, which mistakes to avoid, and which decisions increase his chances of success. That's why Hitogami rarely tries to confront Orsted directly. Instead, he attacks the pieces around him. He prevents alliances. He eliminates key individuals. He manipulates critical events. Because he understands that defeating Orsted isn't as simple as defeating a powerful warrior. And here we reach a revelation that many anime-only fans may not realize. Rudeus is one of the biggest problems Hitogami has ever faced. Because originally, Rudeus was never supposed to exist in the way he does now. His presence changes events, creates new possibilities, changes people, and generates outcomes that Hitogami cannot fully predict. That's why we constantly see Hitogami trying to manipulate Rudeus. But what truly turns Rudeus into a threat is his connection to Orsted. Because for a very long time, Orsted fought almost completely alone. But that eventually changes. And when Orsted starts building genuine alliances, Hitogami's situation becomes much more dangerous. For the first time in countless loops, Orsted is no longer just an overwhelmingly powerful warrior. He's becoming the leader of a network of highly capable allies. Allies who don't just increase his military strength. They expand his influence across the entire world. And Hitogami realizes this. Perhaps before anyone else does. Because while most people only see the invincible dragon god, Hitogami sees something much worse. An Orsted who may have finally found a path to victory. And there's another important detail. Despite being incredibly powerful, Orsted fights with a major disadvantage. His mana consumption. Whenever he uses his strongest abilities, he spends an enormous amount of precious mana. That's why he avoids unnecessary battles. That's why he doesn't solve every problem with brute force. And that makes his journey even more impressive. Because despite carrying that limitation, he remains the greatest obstacle standing in Hitogami's way. Not simply because he's the strongest, but because he's the only person who truly understands the war that's taking place behind the scenes. while the rest of the world lives without understanding the bigger picture. Orsted has been facing the final enemy from the very beginning. And perhaps that's the real reason Hitogami fears him. Not because Orsted is invincible. Not because Orsted is perfect. But because he is the only person who has spent thousands of years studying every move Hitogami makes, learning from every defeat, correcting every mistake, and returning stronger and wiser each time. In the end, Hitogami doesn't just fear the Dragon God. He fears the possibility that after countless attempts, Orsted may have finally found the loop where he wins. And what do you think? Do you believe Hitogami still has a hidden trump card against Orsted? Or is the Dragon God closer to victory than ever before? Let me know your theory in the comments.